Hi guys, welcome back to Cammy Creation channel, and today we're going to be talking about Nolan Wells. So his throat was actually missing and his body and other parts of the organs were missing, and also we're still waiting on Mississippi to give their official autopsy, which they have not gave yet. Colin Kaepernick had paid for his second autopsy from a private investigator, and we had just got back the results of that from Washington, D.C., and the medical examiner said that foul play may have played a part, but they are not sure yet, but they're not ruling it out, guys. Please make sure you like, subscribe, and comment, and please enjoy this video. Also, guys, note that both autopsies do have to match in this case. So Mississippi has yet to give it, but here are some of the details regarding this case.
Removal, Y-shaped incision of the anterior torso, and he talked about the organs being removed as is common, accompanied in the body cavity. And that when you have an autopsy, the organs are removed from the body and they're dissected and examined, and then they're put back in a bag within inside the body. So when they're buried, their remains will all be with them. But in this occasion, if there's going to be a second autopsy, then the organs are put in the body cavity, so the second pathologist could be able to examine the organs as well. Very significant for Dr. Mitchell was that the anterior inner neck struck a 12 by 8 inch focal area of red discoloration in the deep soft tissues overlaying the occipital bone. And he talked about how he found red discoloration when he cut open into the back of his head towards the occipital bone, and he saw the red discoloration, and we actually saw the pictures of it. It's significant. You can't help but notice, why is this dark red here in the back of his head? And so he was important to note that in his report. He said that etiology is important report. He said that etiology of this finding is unclear. There are no lacerations of the overlaying skin nor fractures of the underlying skull. These findings are inconclusive for perimoral injury due to the body, due to both the extensive decomposition and the absence of associated injuries. This finding, however, is significant enough to be highlighted in this preliminary report for further investigation. In a bag within inside the body. So when they're buried, their remains will all be with them. But in this occasion, if there's going to be a second autopsy, then the organs are put in.
Well, child, please, I'm in my house and staying out.
He said another limitation. Another limitation faced by this forensic pathologist was the absence of the anterior internal neck structures. The trachea and the laryngeal cartilage, the thyroid horn, and the hyoid bone were not received with the body. So he's saying that the throat was not received with the body when he got Nolan Wells Washington, D.C. to perform the second autopsy.
Yeah, well,
And so
I'm glad
let's
you did.
discuss that with what he said about
Like I
that.
said, I'm glad you got over that too.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
He said, it is assumed that the initial pathologist retained these structures for additional evaluation.
Right.
He said the retention of the anterior neck structures during an initial autopsy is a common forensic pathology practice. He was chief medical examiner for 7 years in Washington, D.C., and he said that if they had concern about throat or any fracture or compression of the throat, they too would hold them back. He doesn't know why they held the throat back, but he said the throat was not with the body of Nolan Wells when he received it in Washington, D.C. to perform the second autopsy.
Yeah, she was there. I think
He said, nevertheless, a posterior neck dissection performed without review of the anterior neck structures is incomplete. Therefore, this pathologist cannot rule out injury to the neck as a contributor or a cause of death. He said he would need to have the medical examiner in Mississippi allow him to review the throat. That's why he said his autopsy is undetermined pending investigation. Remember, it's about transparency.
All right. There's
And
no way you're gonna survive.
was very
It showed that
straightforward, very open, very open. He says, however, dissection of the back of the head during the layered posterior neck dissection revealed a 12 by 8 inch focal area of red discoloration in the deep soft tissues overlaying the occipital bone. And he talked about how he found red discoloration when he cut open into the back of his head towards the occipital bone, and he saw the red discoloration, and we actually saw the pictures of it. It's significant. You can't help but notice, why is this dark red here in the back of his head? And so he was important to note that.
There's a major development in the investigation surrounding Nolan Wells' death. According to recent court filings, Nolan's mother has petitioned to open his estate and be appointed as the administrator. Some people have assumed this is about money or assets, but the court documents indicate otherwise. Nolan was a young man with no significant assets. The petition specifically states that the estate exists solely to pursue claims for damages related to the circumstances of his death. In other words, the estate is being opened so the family can pursue a potential wrongful death lawsuit. It's important to understand that a civil wrongful death case is completely separate from a criminal investigation. A civil case has a lower burden of proof than a criminal case. Instead of proving guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, the standard is generally whether it is more likely than not that someone's actions or negligence contributed to the death. In my opinion, this is a strategic legal move. As many people know, several individuals who were reportedly with Nolan before his death have declined to speak with his family or their attorneys. While they have every legal right not to speak voluntarily, filing a civil lawsuit changes the legal landscape. If a wrongful death lawsuit moves forward, the family's legal team could have access to the civil discovery process. Discovery may allow attorneys to request documents, depose witnesses under oath, and seek records through subpoenas, subject to the court's approval and applicable law. That could include phone records, text messages, GPS data, boat records, towing records, and other evidence that may help establish a timeline. A witness who refuses to voluntarily answer questions could potentially be required to testify under oath if properly subpoenaed during civil litigation. Any testimony would have to be truthful, and attorneys would have the opportunity to compare those statements with other available evidence. This is one reason many people believe hiring attorney Ben Crump was a significant decision. Civil litigation can uncover information that may not otherwise become public. While a civil lawsuit does not replace a criminal investigation, evidence obtained during discovery could potentially become relevant to law enforcement if it uncovers new information. Another key issue is the autopsy. Many people are waiting for the official findings because the medical examiner's conclusions will likely play a major role in determining how both the civil case and any criminal investigation move forward. If additional independent medical opinions are obtained, any significant differences between those findings would almost certainly receive close scrutiny. The wrongful death case itself focuses on compensating surviving family members for losses resulting from the death, such as the loss of companionship and support. In some cases, a separate survival action may also seek damages for pain and suffering or losses experienced before death, depending on state law. From my perspective, opening Nolan's estate is about much more than filing paperwork. It creates a legal avenue for gathering evidence that may not have been available otherwise. Through discovery, the family's attorneys may be able to request records, question witnesses under oath, reconstruct the timeline, and examine what happened leading up to Nolan's death. Whether any of that ultimately leads to civil liability or contributes to a criminal case remains to be seen. Those decisions will depend on the evidence in the courts. But this filing represents a significant procedural step that could give Nolan's family additional legal tools as they continue seeking answers. The investigation is still ongoing, and no court has determined civil or criminal liability. Any allegations against specific individuals remain unproven unless established through the legal process.
Certified forensic pathologist performed a preliminary report on the death of Nolan Xavier Wells. He conducted and presented this report on July 19th, 2026. Preliminary report, second autopsy, death of Nolan Xavier Wells. Cause of death, undetermined, pending investigation. And we'll explain that as we go through the report this morning. The manner of death, undetermined, pending investigation. Statement of examination. This forensic pathologist was retained to perform a second autopsy examination on the body of Nolan Xavier Wells. Name of decedent, Nolan Xavier Wells. Age, 18 years old. Race, black. Gender, male. Date of death, unknown. Second autopsy date was performed on July 10th, 2026. Preliminary findings. And this is significant. Focal area of red discoloration in the soft tissue of the back of the head, the occipital region. He said the etiology is unknown at this time. He said the body was received after the initial autopsy. He said the body had marked decompensation. He said corona incision of the scalp, brain removal, Y-shaped incision of the anterior torso.
If you don't care about what happened to Nolan Xavier Wells because he doesn't look like you, would you feel differently about his friends minimizing his life if the victim looked like this, more like you? What if I told you that this is Nolan Wells' grandmother, which makes Nolan's mother half Asian and Nolan himself a quarter or an Asian person himself? And if you think that couldn't happen to me, that happened to Nolan because he's partially black, then I'm gonna remind you of Nancy Ying, the 29-year-old special needs teacher from Alhambra, California, who went missing while she was on a yoga retreat on Lake Adelan, Guatemala, 3 years ago, who, just like Nolan Wells, put his trust into his white friends, thinking that they're just going out for a good time on the water. Nancy Ying also put her trust in her white friend Christina Blazik while going out on the water, thinking that they're about to have some fun. But just like Nolan Wells' white friends, who all claim that they don't know what happened to Nolan and just thought that he was on another boat, but then as soon as they got back, deleted all of their social media accounts, including Warren Hudson here, who up until 9:30 last night still had his profile up but now is gone. And allegedly, at least 2 of them immediately lawyered up upon getting home. Christina Blazik, who had told officials in Guatemala that she did not see what happened to Nancy, whether she jumped in or fell into the water, as soon as she returned to the United States, deleted her socials, lawyered up, and through her lawyer tried to claim that they were barely even friends. Which is weird because I didn't realize that people who barely knew each other put their arms around each other's necks and then held each other's hands while taking photos together. Who, once she returned home to America through her lawyer, was like, no, I tried to save her. Oh, by the way, also, Christina and the whole rest of the yoga retreat decided not to even remotely help find Nancy Ng's body and then fled the country the next day before a police investigation could even be officially started. So not only if you care about community, should you also care about what happened to Nolan Wells, because this boy was also Asian. But if you only care about things that happen to people that look exactly like you, that's the problem. Because when we're fighting the same systems of oppression that places people of color systemically second class compared to the white counterparts, it bleeds into societal standards and even into interpersonal relationships. The effect is the same for all of us. And that is that our lives are not valued, which means that our lives are not safe. Demand justice and visibility for Nolan Xavier Wells. One of these has been set up for the family. If you are able, please help them out. You can find it right here. And rest in peace, Nolan Xavier Wells.
Certified forensic pathologists performed a preliminary report on the death of Nolan Xavier Wells. He conducted and presented this report on July 19th, 2026. Preliminary report, second autopsy, death of Nolan Xavier Wells. Cause of death, undetermined, pending investigation. And we'll explain that as we go through the report this morning. The manner of death, undetermined, pending investigation. Statement of examination. This forensic pathologist was retained to perform a second autopsy examination on the body of Nolan Xavier Wells. Name of decedent, Nolan Xavier Wells. Age, 18 years old. Race, black. Gender, male. Date of death, unknown. Second autopsy date was performed on July 10th, 2026. Preliminary findings. And this is significant. Focal area of red discoloration in the soft tissue of the back of the head, the occipital region. He said the etiology is unknown at this time. He said the body was received after the initial autopsy. He said the body had marked decompensation. He said coronal incision of the scalp, brain removal, Y-shaped incision of the anterior torso,